Maya Chun had always been the invisible student at Roosevelt High School. While her classmates filled the hallways with laughter and chatter, she moved through the corridors like a shadow, her dark hair falling across her face like a protective curtain. Teachers often forgot to call on her during class discussions, and lunch periods found her sitting alone in the library, lost in books about military history and precision engineering. Her fascination with accuracy began in childhood when her grandfather, a retired engineer, taught her to build model airplanes. He would spend hours showing her how the tiniest adjustment to a wing or propeller could mean the difference between flight and failure. Precision, little one, he would say in his gentle voice, is not about perfection. It's about understanding every variable that affects your goal. Maya's parents, both busy doctors at the local hospital, barely noticed their daughter's quiet obsession with detail. They assumed her excellent grades and well-behaved nature meant everything was fine. They had no idea that Maya spent her evenings studying ballistics tables she found online, or that she had taught herself to calculate wind resistance and trajectory angles using physics formulas far beyond her grade level. The first sign of something unusual came during sophomore year when the JROTC program visited the school for recruitment. Colonel Martinez, a stern man with kind eyes, set up a demonstration booth featuring a laser shooting simulator. Students lined up eagerly, most treating it like a video game, whooping and laughing as they fired wildly at virtual targets. Maya watched from a distance, analyzing the stance of each shooter, noting how their breathing affected their aim, observing the subtle tremor in their hands that threw off their shots. When the crowd finally thinned, she approached the booth quietly. Colonel Martinez looked up from his paperwork, surprised to see the shy girl who had been observing from the back. "Want to give it a try?" he asked, gesturing toward the simulator. Maya nodded silently, stepping up to the electronic rifle. She had never held a weapon before, but something felt natural about the weight in her hands. She closed her eyes for a moment, remembering her grandfather's lessons about steady hands and controlled breathing. Her first shot missed the center by several inches. The second was closer. By the third shot, Colonel Martinez was paying attention. The fourth shot hit dead center. The fifth, sixth, and seventh shots followed with mechanical precision, each one striking the exact center of the target. "Have you done this before?" Colonel Martinez asked, his eyebrows raised in surprise. Maya shook her head, setting down the simulator rifle with the same careful attention she gave to everything else. "Natural talent," he murmured, making a note on his clipboard. "You should consider joining our program." Maya walked away without responding, but the seed had been planted. That night, she researched everything she could find about competitive shooting sports. She learned about Olympic marksmen, military snipers, and precision shooting competitions. The more she read, the more she realized that her love of accuracy and her natural steadiness might actually be useful for something. Her parents remained oblivious to this new interest. They were proud when Maya joined the school's JROTC program the following semester, assuming it would help her build confidence and social skills. They had no idea that their quiet daughter was about to discover a talent that would shock everyone who knew her. The JROTC training started with basic drills and physical fitness, but Maya was most excited about the marksmanship component. The program used small-caliber rifles for safety, and training took place at an indoor range with targets set at modest distances. Most students struggled to hit the target consistently at 50 feet. Maya's first day at the range was unremarkable to outside observers. She listened carefully to the safety briefings and technique instructions, asking no questions, but absorbing every detail. When it came time to shoot, she took her position alongside 12 other students on the firing line. The other students fired with varying degrees of success. Some hit the outer rings of the target, others missed entirely. Maya's first shot hit the 8-ring, a respectable result for a beginner. Her instructor, Sergeant Thompson, nodded approvingly and moved on to help struggling students. But Maya was analyzing her first shot with the same methodical approach she brought to everything else. She had felt a slight tremor in her left hand just before pulling the trigger. The wind from the ventilation system had created a barely perceptible air current across the range. Her breathing had been slightly shallow due to nervousness. Her second shot hit the 9-ring. The third shot hit the 10-ring. By her fifth shot, She had found the rhythm that would define her shooting for years to come. Breathe in, breathe out halfway. Hold. Squeeze the trigger like her grandfather had taught her to handle delicate model airplane parts. Follow through with perfect stillness. Sergeant Thompson noticed when Maya's 6th, 7th, and 8th shots all struck the same small area in the center of the target. He walked over quietly, not wanting to disturb her concentration. Maya's 9th and 10th shots continued the pattern, creating a tight grouping that would have impressed experienced shooters. Outstanding shooting, Chun, Sergeant Thompson said when the session ended. Maya looked down at her target in surprise, as if seeing the results for the first time. To her, it had simply felt like the natural outcome of applying proper technique consistently. Word of Maya's shooting ability spread quickly through the small JROTC program. Colonel Martinez made a point of observing her during subsequent training sessions, noting her unusual composure and the mechanical consistency of her shooting. He began to suspect that Maya Chun might be something special, but even he had no idea just how special she would prove to be. The quiet girl who had spent years being overlooked was about to step into a world where precision mattered more than popularity, where steady nerves counted more than social skills, and where her greatest strength had always been hiding in plain sight. Maya Chun was about to discover that sometimes the most unlikely people are exactly what the world has been waiting for. 3 months into her JROTC training, Maya Chun had quietly become the best shooter in the program's history. While her classmates celebrated hitting the target at all, Maya consistently placed every shot within the inner rings. Sergeant Thompson had run out of standard challenges for her and had begun setting up increasingly difficult scenarios to test her abilities. The transformation in Maya's confidence was subtle but noticeable. She still rarely spoke in class, but there was a new steadiness in her posture, a quiet assurance that hadn't been there before. Her parents attributed the change to the military discipline of the JROTC program, never suspecting that their daughter was developing skills that few people possessed. Colonel Martinez had been making discreet inquiries about competitive shooting opportunities for exceptional students. He learned about the state's Junior Marksman program, which selected promising young shooters for advanced training and potential scholarship opportunities. The program was highly competitive, requiring candidates to demonstrate exceptional ability under pressure. The selection process involved a series of increasingly difficult shooting tests, culminating in a challenge that had eliminated 90% of previous candidates. Shooters had to maintain accuracy while dealing with time pressure, environmental factors, and psychological stress designed to simulate real-world conditions. Maya learned about the program when Colonel Martinez approached her after a particularly impressive training session. She had just finished a drill where she hit 30 consecutive bullseyes at varying distances, adjusting for different lighting conditions and target sizes without missing once. "There's an opportunity one think you should consider," Colonel Martinez said, handing her a program brochure. "The State Junior Marksman Program is accepting applications for their next training cycle. The selection process is challenging, but I believe you have the potential to succeed." Maya studied the brochure carefully, noting the program's emphasis on precision shooting at extended ranges. The advanced training included techniques for shooting at distances up to several thousand meters, using equipment far more sophisticated than anything she had experienced in JROTC. The idea both excited and intimidated her. "The application deadline is next week," Colonel Martinez continued. "If you're interested, I'll provide a recommendation letter. But you should know that the selection process has a reputation for being extremely difficult. Most candidates have years of experience with competitive shooting." Maya took the brochure home and spent the evening researching the program online. She learned that previous participants had gone on to compete in national championships, earn military academy appointments, and even qualify for Olympic development programs. The program's reputation was built on producing shooters capable of extraordinary precision under extreme conditions. The more she read, the more Maya realized this was exactly the challenge she had been unconsciously preparing for her entire life. Every hour spent perfecting model airplane details with her grandfather, every physics problem solved with methodical precision, every moment of quiet observation and analysis had been building toward this opportunity. She submitted her application the next day, including a brief essay about her interest in precision shooting. Colonel Martinez submitted his recommendation, noting Maya's exceptional natural ability and her unusual composure under pressure. Neither of them expected the response that came just 3 days later. The program coordinator, Major Sarah Williams, called Colonel Martinez personally to discuss Maya's application. She had been impressed by the recommendation letter and wanted to schedule an immediate evaluation session. Such rapid responses were unusual, typically reserved for candidates with exceptional credentials or strong military family connections. We're particularly interested in candidates who demonstrate natural ability rather than just trained technique, Major Williams explained during the phone call. Your description of Miss Chin's shooting suggests she might have the instincts we're looking for. The evaluation session was scheduled for the following Saturday at a military training facility 2 hours from Maya's school. She would join 12 other candidates for a series of shooting tests designed to identify exceptional talent. The candidates ranged in age from 16 to 18, most of them already accomplished competitive shooters with years of experience. Maya felt nervous during the drive to the facility, but it was the focused nervousness she experienced before any important test. Her parents drove her to the evaluation, proud of her selection but not fully understanding the significance of the opportunity. They assumed it was similar to academic competitions she had participated in during middle school. The military facility was unlike anything Maya had experienced. The shooting ranges were sophisticated, with electronic monitoring systems and adjustable environmental controls. The weapons available for the evaluation were precision rifles far superior to the basic equipment used in JROTC training. Major Williams briefed the 13 candidates on the evaluation process. They would complete 4 shooting tests of increasing difficulty, with elimination after each round. The tests were designed to identify not just technical shooting ability, but also mental resilience and the capacity to perform under pressure. The first test seemed straightforward: 10 shots at standard targets from 100 meters. Maya watched as the other candidates prepared, noting their professional quality equipment and confident demeanor. Most of them had custom shooting jackets, specialized glasses, and personal rifles they had brought for the evaluation. Maya stepped up to the firing line with standard military equipment, feeling somewhat out of place among the more experienced shooters. But as she settled into shooting position, the familiar calm descended over her. The external pressure and unfamiliar environment faded away, leaving only the fundamental relationship between shooter, rifle, and target. Her first shot struck the center ring with a satisfying precision. The second shot joined it, creating the beginning of a tight group. As Maya continued shooting, she felt the same natural rhythm she had discovered during her early JROTC training, but refined by months of practice and enhanced by the superior equipment. When the first round ended, Maya had achieved a perfect score, joining 4 other candidates who would advance to the second test. The eliminated candidates included several with impressive shooting resumes, highlighting the competitive nature of the selection process. Major Williams reviewed the results with interest, noting that Maya's target showed the tightest grouping of all the perfect scores. While the other successful candidates had achieved technical perfection, Maya's shots clustered in an area smaller than a quarter, suggesting an unusual level of natural precision. The second test introduced time pressure and multiple targets at varying distances. Candidates had to engage 5 different targets within a 2-minute window, with points awarded for both speed and accuracy. This test eliminated 3 more candidates, including one who had been considered a strong favorite. Maya approached the second test with the same methodical calmness she brought to everything else. Instead of rushing to engage all targets quickly, she calculated the optimal sequence to minimize time while maintaining accuracy. Her systematic approach allowed her to complete the test with 15 seconds to spare while achieving maximum points on every target. By the end of the second test, Maya had earned the attention of Major Williams and her evaluation team. The quiet girl with no competitive shooting experience was outperforming candidates with years of training and expensive equipment. More importantly, she was demonstrating the kind of mental composure that couldn't be taught. As the remaining candidates prepared for the third test, Maya sensed that she was about to face challenges that would push her abilities to their limits. But, for the first time in her life, She felt completely in her element, surrounded by people who understood that precision and patience were not weaknesses to be overcome, but strengths to be celebrated. The third test separated the truly exceptional candidates from those who were merely very good. Major Williams led the 5 remaining candidates to an outdoor range where targets were positioned at distances ranging from 300 to 800 meters. Wind flags fluttered along the range, indicating variable conditions that would test each shooter's ability to read environmental factors and adjust accordingly. This test evaluates your capacity to adapt to real-world shooting conditions, Major Williams explained as she handed each candidate a data book for recording observations. You'll have 30 minutes to study the range conditions and plan your approach. Then, you'll have 10 shots to engage targets at 5 different distances, 2 shots per target. The other 4 candidates were seasoned competitors who immediately began using sophisticated equipment to measure wind speed, humidity, and temperature. They made detailed calculations in their data books, referencing ballistic tables and environmental correction charts. Their preparation was professional and methodical, reflecting years of competitive shooting experience. The wind wasn't just a single speed and direction, but a complex pattern that varied with terrain and time. During the preparation period, Maya made simple sketches in her data book showing wind patterns and their likely effects at different ranges. Her notes looked less technical than those of her competitors, but they captured nuances that instruments couldn't measure. She drew arrows showing how the wind curved around buildings and noted areas where thermal currents might create unexpected conditions. When the shooting began, the difference in preparation styles became immediately apparent. The first candidate, a 17-year-old boy with an impressive competitive record, executed his shots with technical precision, but struggled to adjust for the subtle wind variations Maya had observed. His shots were accurate, but not exceptional, landing in the outer rings of several targets. The second and third candidates fared better, demonstrating the value of their experience and systematic approach. Both achieved respectable scores, though neither managed to hit the center ring consistently at the longer ranges. Wind estimation proved challenging even for shooters with years of competitive experience. Maya stepped up to the firing line for her turn with calm confidence. She had spent the observation period not just studying conditions, but visualizing each shot and its likely trajectory. In her mind, she had already fired the entire sequence successfully, making mental adjustments for the environmental factors she had identified. Her first target was positioned at 300 meters, a distance that required minimal environmental correction but demanded consistent technique. Maya's 2 shots struck within an inch of each other in the center ring, establishing a rhythm that would carry through the entire test. The 400-meter target presented more challenging conditions, with a crosswind that had troubled the previous shooters. But Maya had observed that the wind pattern created a brief lull every 20 to 30 seconds as thermal currents shifted. She timed her shots to coincide with these natural pauses, achieving 2 more center hits. As Maya progressed to the longer-range targets, her unusual approach to reading conditions became increasingly evident. While her competitors had relied primarily on their instruments and calculations, Maya was responding to subtle environmental cues that she processed almost intuitively. Her shots at 600 and 700 meters continued to find the center ring with remarkable consistency. The final target at 800 meters represented a significant challenge. At that distance, even small errors in wind estimation could cause shots to miss the target entirely. The previous candidates had struggled at this range, with only the most experienced managing to hit the outer rings consistently. Maya studied the 800-meter target through her scope, noting the complex wind patterns that affected the extended bullet trajectory. Multiple wind zones created different effects at various points along the bullet's path, requiring her to calculate not just the immediate conditions, but how those conditions would influence the projectile throughout its flight. She took her time preparing for the first shot, waiting for conditions that matched her mental calculations. When the moment felt right, Maya fired with the same smooth technique she had developed during months of JROTC training. The bullet's flight time to the distant target seemed endless, but when the impact was marked, it showed a hit in the center ring. Her final shot was even more precise, striking just millimeters from her first hit at 800 meters. The scoring team used binoculars to verify the results, noting that Maya's 2 shots at the most difficult target had created the smallest group of the entire evaluation. Major Williams reviewed Maya's scorecard with obvious surprise. The quiet girl with no competitive experience had not only achieved a perfect score, but had done so with remarkable consistency across all distances. More importantly, her shooting had actually improved as the distances increased and conditions became more challenging. Exceptional performance, Major Williams told Maya as the test concluded. Your approach to reading conditions was unconventional, but highly effective. Where did you learn those techniques? Maya considered the question carefully before responding. My grandfather taught me that understanding systems was more important than memorizing formulas. I tried to see how everything worked together instead of treating each factor separately. The 4th test, which would determine final selection for the advanced program, was scheduled for the following week at a different facility. Only Maya and one other candidate, Marcus Rodriguez, an 18-year-old with 3 years of competitive shooting experience, had qualified for the final evaluation. Major Williams explained that the final test would push their abilities to the absolute limit, using scenarios designed to identify candidates with the potential for truly exceptional performance. The details would remain confidential until the day of testing, but she hinted that the challenge would require not just technical shooting skills, but the kind of mental resilience that separated good shooters from great ones. As Maya drove home with her parents, she reflected on how much her life had changed in just a few months. The shy girl who had once felt invisible was now being considered for an elite training program that could open doors she had never imagined. But more than external opportunities, Maya realized she had discovered something fundamental about herself. For years, she had seen her quiet nature and methodical approach as limitations that set her apart from more outgoing classmates. But in the world of precision shooting, these same qualities were exactly what made her exceptional. Her ability to observe carefully, think systematically, and remain calm under pressure weren't just useful skills. They were the foundation of truly extraordinary performance. The final test would determine whether Maya's natural abilities could translate into the kind of elite-level performance that the program demanded. But, regardless of the outcome, she had already achieved something far more valuable: the discovery that her unique strengths had a place where they could shine. Maya spent the week before the final test continuing her regular JROTC training, but with a new understanding of her capabilities. She practiced not just shooting technique, but mental preparation methods that would help her maintain composure under extreme pressure. Whatever the final challenge would bring, she was determined to meet it with the same quiet confidence that had carried her this far. The final evaluation took place at a military training complex that specialized in advanced marksmanship training for special operations personnel. Maya arrived early on a crisp November morning, accompanied by her parents who were beginning to understand that their daughter's abilities were far from ordinary. The facility's reputation for producing elite-level shooters added weight to an already significant challenge. Marcus Rodriguez was already at the facility, accompanied by his shooting coach and parents who had supported his competitive shooting career for years. He greeted Maya politely but with the confidence of someone accustomed to high-pressure competitions. His equipment bag contained custom rifles worth more than most families spent on cars, along with precision measurement tools that reflected years of serious investment in competitive shooting. Major Williams met both candidates in a briefing room where she explained the nature of the final test. Unlike previous evaluations that had focused on technical shooting skills, this challenge was designed to simulate the kind of extreme conditions that only the most elite marksmen ever encountered. Today's test will push you beyond anything you've experienced, Major Williams began, her expression serious. You'll be shooting at an unprecedented distance for junior candidates, dealing with environmental conditions that change throughout the test, and facing psychological pressure designed to reveal your true capabilities under stress. She led them to an observation deck overlooking a vast training range that stretched far into the distance. Maya could barely make out targets positioned at what appeared to be extraordinary ranges, with terrain features and obstacles between the shooting position and distant objectives. Your target today is positioned at 4,000 meters, Major Williams announced. This distance exceeds what most competitive shooters ever attempt, and it requires not just technical skill but an understanding of ballistics and environmental factors that few people possess. Maya felt her heart rate increase slightly, but not from fear. The challenge represented everything she had been unknowingly preparing for throughout her life. The distance was intimidating, but it also excited her in a way that shorter-range shooting never had. At 4,000 meters, success would depend entirely on the kind of systematic analysis and patient observation that came naturally to her. Marcus looked visibly shaken by the announcement. His competitive experience had rarely extended beyond 1,000 meters, and the prospect of shooting at 4 times that distance clearly challenged his confidence. He began asking detailed questions about equipment specifications and environmental measurement tools, seeking to apply his familiar analytical approach to an unfamiliar situation. The weapons provided for the test were military precision rifles equipped with advanced optical systems capable of the long-range engagement. Maya had never used such sophisticated equipment, but the fundamental principles remained the same. The rifle was simply a more precise tool for applying the skills she had developed. Major Williams explained the specific challenge they would face. Each candidate would have 12 shots to hit the 4,000-meter target. The test was designed to be extremely difficult, with previous candidates typically requiring 8 to 10 shots before achieving their first hit, if they succeeded at all. Environmental conditions will change throughout the test, she continued. Wind patterns, temperature, and humidity will vary as the day progresses, requiring constant adaptation. You'll need to read conditions not just at your position, but at multiple points along the 4,000-meter trajectory. Maya spent the preparation period studying the range through powerful spotting scopes, identifying terrain features that would affect bullet trajectory, and observing how environmental conditions varied across the enormous distance. The path to the target crossed multiple elevation changes, areas with different vegetation, and terrain features that would create complex wind patterns. She noticed that thermal currents rose from a paved area halfway to the target, creating turbulence that would deflect projectiles passing through that zone. Wind flags at various distances showed different patterns, indicating that bullets would encounter multiple distinct air masses during their extended flight time. Marcus focused on making detailed calculations using ballistic computers and environmental measurement devices. His approach was methodical and professional, reflecting his competitive training, but Maya could see that he was struggling to adapt his familiar techniques to the unprecedented challenge. When the shooting began, Marcus fired first. His initial shots revealed the extraordinary difficulty of the challenge, with impacts showing on electronic monitors positioned far from the intended target. The bullets were affected by environmental factors he hadn't anticipated, despite his careful calculations. Shot after shot, Marcus adjusted his aim based on feedback from the monitoring systems. His technique was sound and his equipment excellent, but the sheer complexity of the 4,000-meter shot challenged his ability to process all the variables involved. By his 8th shot, he had managed to get closer to the target, but still hadn't achieved a direct hit. Maya watched Marcus's efforts with interest, learning from his misses as much as from his improvements. She could see patterns in how environmental factors were affecting his shots, and began to build a mental model of the complex ballistics involved in the extreme distance shooting. When her turn came, Maya approached the firing line with characteristic calmness. She had spent the observation period not just studying conditions, but developing an intuitive understanding of how multiple environmental factors would interact along the bullet's path. Her approach was less mathematical than Marcus's, but more holistic in considering the complete system involved. Her first shot missed the target, but the miss provided valuable information about how her initial calculations had been wrong. Instead of making dramatic adjustments like Marcus had done, Maya made small corrections based on her analysis of what had caused the error. Shot 2 missed again, but closer to the target. Shot 3 was closer still. Maya was approaching the problem like her grandfather had taught her to approach complex engineering challenges, using each attempt to refine her understanding of the system rather than simply trying to correct for individual errors. Her 4th, 5th, and 6th shots continued to close in on the target, each one providing additional data about the environmental factors affecting bullet trajectory. Maya could feel herself beginning to understand the rhythm of the long-range shot in a way that transcended technical knowledge. Shot 7 missed by a narrow margin. Shot 8 was even closer. By her ninth shot, Maya felt confident she understood the complete ballistic equation for the 4,000-meter challenge. She made subtle adjustments to her aim and breathing technique, accounting for every environmental factor she had identified. Her 10th shot struck the edge of the target zone, achieving a marginal hit that would have been considered successful under the test criteria. But Maya wasn't satisfied with a marginal success. She had come too far to settle for barely adequate performance. Shot 11 missed the target completely, a result that surprised everyone observing the test. Maya had been steadily improving, and the sudden miss seemed to indicate that pressure was finally affecting her performance. Major Williams made notes on her evaluation sheet, assuming that Maya had succumbed to the stress of near success. But Maya's 11th shot hadn't been a failure of nerve. She had deliberately fired slightly off target to test a theory about wind conditions that had developed during her previous shots. The miss confirmed her suspicion that environmental factors were subtly different from what they appeared, and provided the final piece of information she needed. Maya's 12th and final shot incorporated everything she had learned from 11 previous attempts. She adjusted not just for the obvious environmental factors, but for the subtle interactions between multiple variables that she had identified through careful observation. Her breathing was perfectly controlled, her stance optimal, and her mental state focused with the kind of intensity that few people ever achieve. The bullet's flight time to the 4,000-meter target seemed endless. Maya maintained her firing position, following through with perfect stillness while the projectile traveled its extended path through varying environmental conditions. When the impact was finally registered by the electronic monitoring system, the result shocked everyone present. Perfect center hit. At 4,000 meters, after 11 misses that had actually been learning opportunities, Maya Chun had achieved a shot that few professional marksmen could duplicate. The quiet girl who had discovered shooting just months earlier had accomplished something that would have been remarkable for shooters with decades of experience. The silence that followed Maya's perfect shot seemed to last forever. Major Williams stared at the electronic monitoring system, confirming the reading 3 times before trusting what the data showed. A dead center hit at 4,000 meters wasn't just exceptional for a junior candidate. It represented shooting ability that few professional marksmen achieved in their entire careers. Marcus Rodriguez stood beside his firing position, having used all 12 of his allotted shots without achieving a direct hit. His closest attempt had missed the target by several feet, a result that would have been respectable for anyone attempting such an extreme challenge. But, compared to Maya's perfect final shot, his performance seemed ordinary despite years of competitive training and expensive equipment. Confirmed target impact. Major Williams radioed to the observation team positioned near the distant target. After a brief pause, the response crackled back through the communication system. Perfect center hit confirmed. Measuring group size now. Maya lowered her rifle and stepped back from the firing line, feeling the same quiet satisfaction she experienced after solving a particularly complex physics problem. The shot had felt right in a way that was difficult to explain, not lucky or accidental, but like the natural result of understanding all the variables involved and applying proper technique consistently. The evaluation team gathered around Major Williams as she reviewed the unprecedented results. Maya's performance didn't just exceed expectations for a junior candidate. It challenged assumptions about what was possible without years of advanced training. Her systematic approach to learning the extreme distance shot had demonstrated an intuitive understanding of ballistics that typically required extensive technical education to develop. In 20 years of conducting these evaluations, Major Williams told her colleagues, "I've never seen anything like this." She treated each miss as data to improve the next shot, building understanding of the complete ballistic system rather than just correcting for individual errors. Maya's parents watched the proceedings with growing amazement. They had brought their daughter to what they assumed was an academic-style competition, never imagining they would witness a performance that military professionals were describing in terms usually reserved for legendary marksmen. Their quiet daughter had somehow achieved something extraordinary. The formal evaluation concluded with Major Williams offering Maya immediate acceptance into the Advanced Marksmanship Program, along with a full scholarship covering training expenses and equipment costs. Additionally, she mentioned opportunities for accelerated advancement that could lead to national competition teams and potential Olympic development programs. Your approach to complex shooting problems is unlike anything we typically see, Major Williams explained to Maya during the debriefing session. You have natural abilities that can't be taught, combined with an analytical mindset that allows you to solve problems other shooters can't even identify. Maya accepted the program offer quietly, the same way she approached most important decisions in her life. But, internally, she felt a sense of validation that went far beyond shooting sports. For the first time, she had found an environment where her natural tendencies toward careful observation and systematic analysis were not just appreciated, but essential for success. The news of Maya's achievement spread quickly through the military training community. Word of a 17-year-old girl achieving a perfect 4,000-meter shot with minimal training attracted attention from competitive shooting coaches, military recruiters, and sports medicine researchers studying exceptional performance. Colonel Martinez received calls from coaches offering to train Maya for national competitions, military academies expressing interest in her potential applications, and researchers wanting to study how someone could develop such advanced skills so rapidly. The quiet JROTC student had become a topic of serious discussion among professionals who understood the significance of her achievement. Maya returned to Roosevelt High School as the same person she had always been, but with a profoundly different understanding of her capabilities and potential. Her classmates remained largely unaware of what had happened, continuing to see her as the quiet girl who preferred books to social activities. Only Colonel Martinez and her closest JROTC classmates knew about the extraordinary abilities she had discovered. Her daily routine remained similar: attending classes, studying in the library, spending evenings with her grandfather working on precision projects that now included custom ammunition loading and ballistic calculations. But there was a new confidence in her demeanor, a quiet assurance that came from knowing she possessed skills that few people in the world could match. The Advanced Marksmanship Program began 3 months later at a facility designed for training elite shooters. Maya found herself among candidates from across the country, most of them older and with extensive competitive backgrounds. She was the youngest participant by 2 years and one of only 3 female candidates in the program. The training curriculum included advanced ballistics theory, environmental analysis techniques, and precision shooting at distances that pushed the limits of current technology. Maya excelled in every aspect of the program, consistently achieving results that impressed instructors with decades of experience training professional marksmen. Her systematic approach to complex shooting challenges became a model that instructors began teaching to other candidates. Maya's method of treating each shot as part of a learning process, rather than simply an attempt to hit a target, revolutionized how the program approached training for extreme distance shooting. 6 months into the advanced program, Maya achieved another milestone that surprised even her most optimistic supporters. During a training exercise designed to test maximum range capabilities, she successfully engaged targets at distances exceeding 5,000 meters, setting unofficial records for junior marksmen that were unlikely to be matched for years. Her success attracted the attention of Olympic development coaches who specialized in preparing shooters for international competition. Maya was invited to try out for the national junior team, with potential opportunities to represent her country in international competitions within 2 years. Maya's grandfather followed her progress with quiet pride, recognizing in her achievements the same principles of precision and systematic thinking he had tried to teach her through their model airplane projects. He had always known his granddaughter possessed exceptional analytical abilities, but even he was amazed by how those skills had translated into world-class marksmanship. Her parents gradually adjusted to their daughter's unexpected fame within the competitive shooting community. They attended her competitions and training sessions, learning to appreciate a sport they had never considered before Maya's involvement. Watching their quiet daughter perform with such extraordinary skill gave them new insight into capabilities she had always possessed but never had opportunity to demonstrate. Maya's story became an inspiration for other young people who felt overlooked or undervalued because of their quiet personalities or unconventional approaches to problem-solving. She proved that exceptional abilities often develop in unexpected ways, and that patient, systematic thinking could achieve results that seemed impossible to others. Years later, when Maya had established herself as one of the world's premier precision shooters, she would still remember the moment when her 12th shot found its target at 4,000 meters. That achievement marked not just the discovery of exceptional shooting ability, but the realization that her unique strengths had finally found their perfect application. The silent girl had found her voice in the precision of perfectly placed shots, speaking a language of accuracy that the whole world could understand.